Yes, I salute you all. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. So basically today we are under the sale of goods as a cost unit, and the topic of emphasis that we are going to look at, we are going to look at the remedies of unpaid seller. The reasons why the remedies of unpaid seller, those are the things that we are going to look at. And what you are going to emphasize on is that realize that first of all the definition of a seller, which is under section 1, the interpretation section of the Sale of Goods and Supply of Services Act, which defines that a seller means a person who sells or agrees to sell goods, as simple as that. So we are going to look at the remedies of unpaid seller. The remedies of an unpaid seller is someone that has not been paid. Remember, under section 35, we said that payment and delivery are concurrent. Where a seller delivers, the buyer must pay. So they are concurrent. When one misses, then that is not a contract of sale of goods. They are concurrent. So basically, we are looking whereby the seller has delivered goods and the buyer has failed to pay, or he has partially paid. You get? So we are going to look at the remedies. And there is a maxim in equity that says that equity shall not suffer a wrong. So basically, one of the remedies of unpaid seller is the right of lien, or the seller's lien. Basically, lien is a form of positional security. Lien is that in Uganda kwe kuwamba. You get? If at all I'm selling to you this phone and you have made the part payment, but you have not paid the rest, I may be in possession of this phone until you make the full payment. That is lien. Lien is that you possess the property or the goods until full payment is made. But the only technique under this remedy is that the seller must be in possession or in possession of goods. Where the seller has transferred possession of goods, he loses the right of lien. He loses it. And this was portrayed in the case of Karim Omoding versus Suleiman Kabandana. Karim Omoding versus Suleiman Kabandana of 1902. What you put in mind is that it was a contract, it was a sale agreement whereby the respondent, who was the owner of the vehicle, agreed to sell the vehicle at 11,500,000. But however, the appellant paid 8 million and the balance was 3,500,000. So in this essence, the respondent handed over the vehicle to the appellant minus the logbook. So when this person put the vehicle actually wanted to sell the vehicle even before completing his balance, so the respondent confiscated or took possession of the vehicle. You get? But however, now here the respondent was right. Reason being was demanding his balance. But however, he had lost his right to lien. Immediately gave out possession of the what? Of the vehicle. So that is the element under the right to lien. You must have been in possession. Actually, you must have been in possession of the commodity to claim that lien. When you transfer possession, you have lost that right. You only claim other rights as we shall see, but not the right to lien. So note that in mind. And there's still under this remedy, you have the case of Osapil versus Kadu. Under that case whereby it was held that the unpaid seller has a right to claim for a lien in the property. You get? So note that in what? In mind. And when you continue about the rights of unpaid seller, we have a right to stoppage in transit. Basically, that's one of the rights you have, a right to stoppage in transit. Before, a right to lien, I don't know whether I gave you a section, but to take you back, the section is section 51A, section 51A of the Sale of Goods and Supply of what? Of Services Act. So when you continue, we go to another right, which is a right to stoppage in transit. Right to stoppage in transit is in under section 55. What do I mean that? We shall look at the rules of delivery. and the passing of property. You get? Here where goods are in transit, the goods are still in possession of the what? Of the seller. So the seller has the right to stop transit. When he realizes that the buyer is not in position to pay. You get? So not that in mind. Because realize that transit is that if they are delivering the goods, they're on their way, but they haven't reached there. So he can stop transit of the goods and say, you know what, bring back my goods, I've stopped there. There is a case of Bethel Company versus Clark Company. Under this case, the merchants purchased goods by writing to the sellers to consign goods to the ship. The goods were delivered to the carriers to be shipped. You get? Before arrival, the seller learned of the buyer's insolvency and opted to claim the goods from the ship. So basically, the issue was whether the right was exercisable when the ship had already dispatched. So the court held that the transit had not come to an end. It could only come to an end when the goods reached the destination. So the right was properly exercised. You get? Let me hope we are at par. So that's the second right. Then another right of unpaid seller or remedy, we have a right to resell the goods. To resell. I sold to you, you have refused to pay, I can resell to another person who is willing to give me the whole payment of those particular goods. A right to resell is portrayed under section 59, subsection 2 of the sale of goods and supply of services. That is the right to resell. And we have the case of Gallagher versus Steellock. Gallagher versus Steellock. Under this case, the defendant entered into the agreement for sale of a motorboat and a deposit was paid. No provision was made in the contract allowing the seller to resell. The buyer wrote to the seller that he was not in position to pay, but raised the money for the motorboat. But raised the money by mortgage. Was not in position, but he could raise the money by a mortgage. So it was held that unpaid seller, in absence of reservation to sell, exercises his right to resell, but that exercise does not reside the contract. For the seller, in so doing, simply affirms the contract and ensures that he receives the contract price. However, he could not keep the deposit. You get? So basically, here what they are trying to mean, where a seller exercises his right to resell, he does not keep the deposit that you paid. He must take back your deposit and sell it to another person. That is the right to resell. So we have another remedy of unpaid seller, which is action for the price, provided under section 60 of the sale of goods and supply of services. Action of the price basically is that you are suing the buyer for the price of the property. And there is a case of Omer Saleh versus Basse. Basse is Besse, Basse, whereby the seller cannot repossess the goods and also sue for the price except under special powers. Note that, such as those confined by hire purchase agreement clause to that effect. Basically, where goods have been passed to the buyer and refused to pay them, the seller may sue for the price. You get? And basically, this takes you to back, whereby under the case, we saw the case of Karim Omoding versus Suleiman Kabandana, whereby he had transferred possession of the vehicle, so he was claiming a lien, but court held that he had lost the lien. The only remedy that was there for him, it was action for the price, as provided under section 60. Section 60 of the sale of goods and supply of service. Then another remedy of unpaid seller, we have a remedy of action for damages of non-acceptance of goods by the buyer, provided under section 61. Action of damages for non-acceptance of goods by the buyer. What does it imply? Here it implies that where you deliver. You know, sometimes with the sellers, we get challenges. A buyer makes an order, you deliver goods, but the buyer doesn't accept them without a valid reason. You get. So the buyer can claim for damages. Damages, they can be the transport used, the cost, the labor used, so something like that. So that is action for damages for non-acceptance of goods by the buyer provided under section 61 of the sale of goods and supply of what? Of services. That is in the cases of breach. Actually, in the case of Hadley versus Baxendale, under that case, it provided that in the cases of breach of a contract, damages should be such as may fairly and reasonably be considered either arising naturally, i.e. according to the usual course of things from such breach itself, or as may be reasonably supposed to have been in the contemplation of both parties at the time of making contract as to the probable result of the breach of it. So basically, failure to accept the goods, uh, failure to accept the goods from the buyer, it is a breach of the contract of sale. You get, whereby payment and delivery are concurrent. You have to know that in mind. Payment and delivery are concurrent. Where delivery fail to pay, fail to accept, basically you can sue for damages where you don't have a specific what reason. But other than that, those are some of the remedies of unpaid seller, and I salute you all. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being on. Basically, those are some of the remedies. Basically, stay blessed and wish you good luck.